Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about proving yourself. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, have you ever been in a situation where you had to prove yourself? Yep. On an almost daily basis, at least when you're dealing with new people or sort of when you're pitching anything that is anything. This is sort of the thing when you're dealing with experts, or like when I mean an expert, I just mean that just as police are an experts in like the way that they do their job, like an expert area, just as lawyers they have an expert field, or doctors and like engineers and what have you, right? When you're dealing with software developers and other software developers, they're all experts in what they're doing, and so when you're dealing with people like that, everybody has sort of an opinion about, because you all come from different backgrounds. You have different backgrounds and different values and so forth. So whenever you present an idea or like a code, a PR or whatever you're doing, right, you will have some measurement of, I'm not saying proving yourself, but there's always an element of evaluation, if that makes sense, of everything you do. Just as with a lot of people who has to do something creative or create something and then present it for peer review, or ship a product and make sure that the customers don't blow up when they use it or things like that, right? And so that's something that basically every software developer has to go through. For me, when it comes to proving myself, it's been at a higher level. I can give you a few examples of situations where basically someone gives me a responsibility and then I have to prove that I can deal with it. So the normal way that I've had to prove myself before is like in the early days you put a lot of stress on yourself as a junior software developer, because you feel like, and to a degree as I said, you're more anxious about in the early stages that your code is up to snuff. That usually the two main things, at least for me and I suspect for a lot of people, is, am I fast enough? Can I prove that I can do this on time? And is my code bug free, and like, does it look good? So you have two levels of evaluation here. You're scared, or like you feel like you have to prove yourself to your coworkers through your coding, and you see like you have to prove yourself to like your manager or PM or whoever has the deadline, right, or whoever is responsible for the deadline, because you need to be on time. These two things are very important to you in the beginning, and just as for you guys who might be starting out, it was very important to me as well, for sure. After a little while, at least for me, and hopefully for a lot of the people who've been working for a while, these things become less of something you have to use. Like it becomes less of a scare for you to deal with this, because you consistently do well, or like it's the exposure thing, right? If you expose yourself to something that might feel uncomfortable, hopefully before long it's going to feel less uncomfortable. Then you get to the next level where you sort of have to prove yourself, and that is when you want to be, how do I put this, like you get to an age or a level of experience where people start to expect more from you, where things such as domain knowledge becomes more prevalent, and your ability to deal with office politics or stakeholders and things like that. And when you get to that level, usually what your managers are looking for is that you embody sort of the value system and can prove that you can facilitate the changes or the directions that they want to see within a team or an organization or something like that. Basically, you need to become a reflection of positive influence on top of the coding that you do. That sounds very fluffy, but it basically means that when you become a tech lead or a team lead or an architect or like something like that, what really it comes down to is, can you talk the talk and convince people that you can make things happen at a very high level? Because what's going to happen at that level, guys, it's imagine the thing every time you felt very frustrated about a product manager writing a single line sentence on a story card, and that's like the whole grooming process, the whole prep process, and now you have to figure out what the fuck am I actually going to do, right? Imagine that at the next level, where your manager literally comes to you, says, we need to increase quality, fix it. That's that's a lot harder than make this feature, because in the make this feature situation, you can at the very least hopefully ask, yeah, what do you mean about this feature? You can get, it's a more limited scope of a problem. But when you get a little bit higher up, they hold you responsible for not just, or rather, you have to prove that you can. It's not just about coding and technical skills. It's about soft skills and leadership and all these sorts of things that come into play as well. And that becomes a more difficult thing for you to prove, because basically it's now not just a question of what you do, it's also a question of what results do you bring in. And I've been here a few times now where basically I've been given either the responsibility for a team or a project, something like that, or my manager wants me to be extra good at something that is very difficult, and then you basically have to figure out how to do it. In the cases where it's been a project, it basically becomes, all right, figure out all the things that needs to happen, like learn who everybody is, because the manager is not going to tell you that. You have to basically go and figure that out. Who are all the stakeholders? What do they value? How do I bring them all together so that we can get forward with this product that we need, like sort of collect them? How do I set up all, because most of them don't have any incentive or any idea of how to actually do this. So you have to figure that out as well. So now you're not just a software developer, you're a product manager as well. And a community leader, a thought leader, call it whatever you want, right? And then you have situations where it's, you have to run a team where basically, oh yeah, you have all these people like who don't, like, we want to increase quality, but the QA doesn't know how to do that, because the QA is convinced that the only thing that person has to do is just do manual regression testing. The developers don't know how to write unit tests. There's no like CI pipeline or any of like these sort of standard things that you would have expected from a serious software team. And it causes like a lot of problems for the team, as they have systematic issues basically. So now you have to be the senior developer, the domain expert, because you have to figure out like how the different systems work. You have to be the DevOps specialist, you have to be the product manager, you have to be the QA as well, or the QA coach, because the QA doesn't have the necessary skills. Because these are the only, this is the sort of problem that sort of exists for a lot of the managers, where this a lot of managers will have to solve this problem by simply hiring people, because they don't really know how to solve this problem. And you can solve this problem by simply having the diplomatic approach and saying to whoever you need to prove yourself to, in this case it's usually a higher manager of some sort, that yeah, we have these issues, and if you know the right values and like the things that you need and talk about the different processes, you can get, you can quote unquote hire other people to facilitate this for you. I've had a little bit of a tougher going there, because my managers, like the last ones that I've had, are technical, so they sort of know, they know how to evaluate good results, if that makes sense. Which means that when I get this responsibility and I have to prove something to, like that basically I can take responsibility for all these sorts of things, it really comes down not just to, as I was saying, what specific things we need to fix, but I also have a fairly, like, I have a set of requirements on me where my involvement is also evaluated. Because being, as I've said before, guys, if somebody hires you, if they hire a standard manager, then they're hiring an individual who basically just sits and facilitates and tries to figure out who else to hire to fix the problems that their team has. That's very inefficient. When they, on the other hand, give me that responsibility, they want me personally to be able to figure it out. I can hire more people, but it's not about that. It's about me figuring out how do I actually solve these sorts of problems. Now, that is a set of requirements where I have to prove basically not just my technical expertise, but also my leadership abilities, which is a different sort of set of requirements than someone who's like a pure manager. So this is where it becomes much tougher, or rather this is the area that I am most of the time I have to prove myself. Basically, can this manager feel confident in that if I just throw this thing at Frederick, it doesn't matter what it is, can be literally anything, will he solve the problem, or will he make sure that this is fixed within a certain amount of time? And that's about as loose as I can imagine a set of requirements being. The next level will be, can Frederick, can we start up a completely new company, and can Frederick set everything up and hire everybody. I don't know. Maybe that's going to be my next level. So what I want you to take away from this is that the situations that I've had to prove myself is usually like the standard one is, okay, can you meet the deadline? Can you code without bugs? Which is usually like that's the everyday stuff for practically everybody who works as a software developer. As a junior software developer, that was super scary. I can tell you that at least for me, it started going away after a little while when you feel like you sort of know how to do all the things. And then at my current level, it's much more about literally everything. Like, do you have the domain knowledge? Do you do well in meetings? Do you know how to structure a work process for other people? Can you coach developers? Can you hire good people? Can you figure out an architecture that works? Can you come up with new product ideas? Like your skill set, like the skills that you might need in order to prove yourself. It really depends on the person who's doing the evaluation. I am lucky and unfortunate at the same time because my manager is like super good at his job and very technical, so I can't bullshit my way out of like doing good stuff. I can't just talk the talk. I have to walk the walk because he can evaluate very accurately, right? That might not be the same situation for everybody, but I have that situation. So for me, the proving is really in, if I throw this thing at you and I don't hold you by the hand, will you be able to learn how to swim and just figure out all the things you need to give me those results? That's the level of proving that I am at right now, at the very least. Have a great day.